Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the energies this week on the 24th of February with today's Monday's musings. There is, as always, a lot coming through. There is the potential to, I want to say connect. What I hear is be distracted by a lot of things that are occurring that aren't relevant to where we are. And that is where our own discernment really comes into play this week. As we lead into the new moon in Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac calendar, as we start the new astrological year this Friday, there is going to be a wonderful opportunity to figure out, to pause, to take stock of the record that we are choosing to take forward. I was going to say narrative, I was going to say story, I was going to say timeline. There's a lot of that coming through as well. It's actually the record, the legacy, the very rooted energy that we are going to be creating for, with, from, and towards. No small task, right? There's a lot of energy coming in through the Crown Chakra. It's leaving the heart trying to clear, expand, reconnect, recalibrate, reclaim its wisdom. And that is wobbling, uprooting, causing some chaos actually in the root chakra. So what does that mean on a human level? On a human level, there's a lot of higher potential coming in that has to get through a lot of our own mental stories, mindsets, particularly those of a spiritual nature. We like to think that, you know, our spiritual insights are beyond and above our mental capacity. They come from somewhere more sovereign. They still have rigidity because we're human. We're human and we're still here learning how to perceive different things. And the more we can expand on that and give ourselves room to breathe, room to psychically breathe, room to embody the vastness that is trying to come through, the more of an impact that's going to have. There's a real temptation, excuse me, and it's from, I feel the higher heart trying to clear. There's a real temptation here to become very rigid and structured in our spiritual beliefs. Beliefs are of a mental energy, okay? If they're how things need to be, how things should be, they are still, no matter what guise you put them under, whether it's tarot, angelic beings, guidance from the earth, if they are structured and rigid and have no room for expansion or flexibility, they're man-made. Take of that what you will, make of that what you will, you know, and that's the beauty of it. It doesn't matter for me how that comes across. It'll either resonate or it won't. Of course, sometimes my physical self doesn't want to offend and it wants to have some kind of control over things. And it's that we're being encouraged to look at this week, because that's where I feel the root chakra. Yes, bring it back to what's going on. Always bring it back to what's going on. There's a tendency to remove ourselves physically from the ongoing process, and it is an ongoing process, okay? It is an ongoing process. It's an ongoing soul retrieval here, and that can cause a bit of confusion, and any confusion that is felt this week is an opportunity to look at areas where there may be trauma. So when we are really uncertain, when we don't know what is going on, it's because we have left our higher soul energy. We have disconnected from the process. We have, and that doesn't mean we've not been able to meditate our way out of it or see the higher perspective. What that means is we have left our body, okay? We're not feeling into what is going on. The more we can come down into what is occurring physically this week, and always, this is nothing that isn't shared. I need to watch that. That's me. I've said this before. bringing that down into a further embodiment, okay, ongoing with this process, keep coming into the body, knowing what you are feeling, because it's when the body and the spirit unite, you get the greater wisdom that's trying to come through. And there is a much higher wisdom trying to come through. It is shifting the energy in the crown chakra. There is clearance with the third eye and how we perceive things. And what that's doing is initiating a sense of wanting to control it, wanting to know, wanting to feel safe and secure, not in what is occurring, but in our ability to hold space for ourselves. That's the most beautiful offering this week. It's all an opportunity to find our soul's core, to reconnect to our body, to remember that our body is here to work with us, that it isn't a commodity. I've just been having the most beautiful conversation with a dear friend of mine, and there's a lot coming up with heart coherence, there's a lot coming up with love, with our connection to the earth, our connection to our I am presence, our connection to animals, our connection to the abundant flow. And we talk about sovereignty, but the birthright of being a human, there's a lot coming up in regards to that is being externally glimmered for us, so we can see where we may have taken things like our gifts, our connections, our relationships, and made them more of a commodity. You can't buy love. You can't buy experience. You can't buy physical health. You can't buy all of these things. Are by working with our body, by feeling these things, not by bypassing them, not by finding a reason behind them, but by really being with them. And that is what we're trying to control this week. And it comes from a place of uncertainty, or believed uncertainty. There's a wonderful opportunity to allow these higher energies to come in, to find balance, to allow us to recognize where we are in our life right now. And to just, as we do that, feel how expansive that makes our root chakra. How that can help us connect to our present place. And that can be difficult. I feel a knee-jerk reaction of wanting to bring my feet up. That can be difficult because, let's face it, a lot of things going on at the moment aren't how we would like them to be. But they give us an opportunity to sense into what is happening for us. And from there, get what it is we need to get through whatever is occurring. The human body can cope with pain. The human body can understand its own processes. You can tune into, an example, labor. You can tune into the pain of labor and be with your body and breathe through that to the point where your own endorphins are stronger than heroin, stronger than any pain relief that anybody else can give you. But it does involve tuning into that. It does involve feeling safe enough to recognize that these emotions are part of the light that we take forward. These feelings, this heart coherence, this moon eye, this love that we may have been perhaps pushing away, is part of the process, a necessary aspect if there's to be any change. I shared a post this morning about the daily guidance. And what's really been coming through over the last few weekends for me is to recognize the sacredness of our own soul, really feeling into that. Really feeling into where we may not feel worthy of that light, of that love, recognizing the sacredness of our own soul, but also as a result seeing where we have been selling ourselves short by focusing on perhaps just our burdens, or focusing on perhaps just our stories, or the more negative aspects. And that isn't about bypassing or making everything positive. That is, a lot of people talk about the dark side and the shadow side as if it's this real negative, everything has to be heavy energy. It isn't about that. It's about embodying the light. When you do shadow work, you go through the shadow and you claim the light. This week is an opportunity to reclaim the light that we have pushed away, that we haven't wanted to acknowledge. Be it through reasoning, be it through expectation, be it through entitlement. One of the other things that's coming through is to recognize where we may have believed we know what we want, and particularly in the spiritual arena, if we haven't achieved it, it's something that we're doing that's wrong, or it's something, you know, it's a measurement of how spiritual we are because of what we have gained, because of what we have achieved, because of how quote unquote aligned we have been to our dreams. There's a lot coming up over this new moon that is an invitation to really look at whether or not what we want is in alignment with our soul's growth. A lot of the things we want are coming from wounds. A lot of the things we want are actually just an opportunity to keep repeating the wounds. This week, where are we shortchanging ourselves? This week, where are we playing small on a soul level because we're trying to control that energy that's coming through, that acknowledgement of our own I am presence, that for, you know, the Christ consciousness that is going to be coming through with the new moon in Pisces. Where are we trying to control that and why? Fear, insecurity, doubt of our own worth, or more importantly, an inner knowing of our own worth. Sometimes we can block what we want because we don't want to believe that we're worthy of it. This week is a wonderful opportunity to feel into that. Why is that important? If we do not initiate a change of value and worth and on ourselves in a soul level, nothing is going to shift externally. Not because we're the born again messiahs or because our life needs to be perfect and that will have a huge ripple effect into our environment. Yes, 100%. But because of how we will then see the environment. We see from where we are. We see what is going on from our experiences. So the experiences that we are focusing on is going to cloud what we see. I have a wonderful, wonderful history of really going against the odds, really fighting the corner, really, you know, rising up against patriarchy, against restriction, against judgment, against so many different things. And that has been really important as part of my journey. But even I this weekend am realising that a big aspect of that is one of the biggest patriarchies I'm rising up against is my own. How I view myself, how I believe things need to be. Why is this important? As we move into next year, even though we're in a 9-year now, we're going into a 10-year. And for those that work with numerology, work with the tarot and all that kind of stuff, they'll know that by the time you get to the 9s in the card, things just carry on flowing, right? So a 9 is just moving into a 10 continuously. Everything we do with a 9 is completion for the 10, for the change. Everything we do this year is leading us into the shifts that are going to happen in 2026. As we go into that energy, the biggest light, as was mentioned in January, and that's an ego thing. I'm mentioning it because I've already said this, right? As was mentioned in January, and as I will probably continue to mention, and have done all my life actually, the light that's going to take us forward is the heart energy. It is the love energy. It is the coherence of our soul and how we express that through this deeper connection. One of the energies that will take us forward in 2026 will be that of the horses, because it's the year of the horse. Astrologically, it's also the Wheel of Fortune, but there's a big emphasis there on our ability to connect to the power of the heart, like the horse does. Our ability to connect to the earth, to connect to our body, to connect to each other, to connect to our soul, not as a commodity, not as something that can be bartered with, that has a price. If you treat me this way, I will treat you that way. If you pay this, I will give this. Beyond that now. Not you're this, I'm this. Beyond that now, a deeper connection to the earth, to each other, that can only be born based on how well we connect to ourselves. Where are we abusing that power? Where are we keeping ourselves small? Where are we playing, where are we shortchanging our soul's potential by only focusing on certain aspects of our experience and our journey? And why? And having compassion for that. You know, this morning I could really feel into all the many reasons, all the many reasons why I may not have connected to this light, this wisdom, this love. But underneath it all, it was a worthiness, Underneath it all, it was a recognition of how beautiful my soul is. And on a human level, a recognition of how I may not always feel able to express that on a human level. Feeling into how sacred you are. Remembering that in all you do. That's the other thing that came through. Just as we're going through for a time of change, there can be this knee-jerk reaction that we have to do more. So those that know the numerology of 9 or 10, they know that things are happening anyway. They've steamrolled, they're in place, they are shifting. All that is needed is to continue what we're doing. Continue what you're doing. It is a struggle. It is hard. What do you need to put in place to keep being who you are? To continue the process, to continue going through whatever is occurring. The change is coming. Mundane aspects, the chop wood, carry water. We talk so much about being the light, about what timeline we're going to stand in, about what we're going to do with X, Y, and Z, our legacy, with very little reference to what we are doing in every single moment. Timelines are about, you see my tree in the background, there's a picture of a tree in the background there, and there's incense going up, smoke clearing. There is huge ancestral clearing going on. There's a lot going on. Don't get lost in that. Timelines are about alignment. What are we aligning to in each moment? So if you want to see a world that is full of healing and beauty, are you aligned to that now? Are you aligning to the very timeline that you're speaking of? Are you aligning to the very outcome that you choose to manifest? Bringing it back to your emotions. Are you allowing yourself to receive that potential? Are you trying to control it? Has it become a commodity? Has it become something that is external rather than internal, based on the value of outside things? This week there is a lot coming through. There is a lot of avenues that we may find ourselves being tempted to walk down, a lot of branches of the same tree. What is really, really important is to figure out the foundation, the roots. What is that to you? What is your core connection and value? I would say, I'm just getting rid of a sign that says my protection has expired. Oh, do I want to reactivate my protection? I would say it's different for us all. But it really isn't. When we connect to that thing that gives us core value, that energy of our soul, it is the same for everybody. It is the same level of alignment and the same feeling. As a society, we've kind of got used to the feeling of peace, the feeling of alignment, meaning something completely different from what it is. Alignment is ease and grace. Alignment is, no matter what is going on externally, a trust and an inner knowing in ourselves, in the connections that we have, in the love that we are, to be where we need to be. Alignment is self-awareness and sovereignty, and that comes from self-management. I know it's not popular. I know people don't want to hear that the way to change things is to look at where they are. It's so much easier. I get it. I would much rather focus on the problems of other people, because I can look at them from a witness perspective, not get involved in it, and it becomes more obvious, right? It starts with us. Bringing it back and using the same skills, the same modalities, the same approaches that you would to someone else's circumstances for yourself. Witness yourself. What is going on here, with curiosity, with awareness. This week it is about how we see ourselves. It is about how we see our soul. It is about any disconnection we may have had. There's stuff coming through for the soul retrieval. So when we have a soul loss, it isn't the experience that will bring back the soul. It isn't the experience that actually allowed the soul to leave. It is us. We have shut off from that aspect. So if we want that part of our soul to come back, we have to be open to what that would feel like. We have to be open to receive our soul. We have to feel into beyond what has happened, beyond the stories, beyond the wounds, beyond the narratives. Because if we're going to keep focusing on that, that is all we're bringing back. We're not bringing back the soul. If anything, the soul doesn't want to come back to that energy. So you may find yourself this week, one of the other things for the new moon moon is a continuous feeling as if you're going around in circles. The song for the blog this week is actually You Spin Me Right Round, Baby, Right Round by Dead or Alive. Is it feeding your life? Is it giving you energy, or is it draining the shit out of you? This week, really sensing into going beyond what caused whatever to happen to what was lost in the process and reclaiming that. The rest is just an invitation and a doorway towards that. There is an element of trust there as we get down to the bones of things. There is an element of trust in how we perceive ourselves underneath it all, stripped back. No skin, no mask, no belief system in place. Some tools can be a distraction. Be wary of that this week. Some stories can be a distraction. What is at the very essence of it all? What are we feeding from underneath everything? Okay, so the cards that I'm going to use, I'm going to look into the energies this week. The cards that I'm going to use are really quite plain, stripped back, very simple. They are dragon cards, so they are very powerful. So acknowledging that by stripping things back and taking off all the layers, that doesn't mean that we're less. That means that we're more in that rawness, in that naked vulnerability, being in that. One of the things I noticed this week is I still have a scar from having a cold and a very sore nose. And I was going to cover it up for the video, but it feels quite pivotal that we allow our scars to be seen. It's not about getting rid of our stories. We allow them to be seen. We, express the journeys that we've been through, but we do so in the actions that we take forward, not from still being in them. We do so in how we take that information and make it relevant to now. There is big emphasis on timelines, and I can hear almost like a yearning to go into that. There is no point discussing timelines if you don't know where you are. There is no point worrying about whether or not you're going to be taken forward into the new world, or whether you're going to be left behind, or until you acknowledge the deeper wound behind that, which is the fear of abandonment. There is no point thinking about different realities until you recognize your own spatial awareness, because then all realities are relevant. Then there's a potential for everything. Then, more importantly, you create the next timeline, your own trajectory. You walk your own path, and that is the potential. And that is what a lot of people are straying from, avoiding, swerving away from, myself included at times, right? Because we're getting caught up in the scars and how they look. Yes, we've had these journeys. Yes, these things are going on. And yes, there's going to be energy that fights that. You're going to find the closer you get to change, the more resistance you're going to feel. That's a beautiful, beautiful sign, right? There's a beautiful sign that things are shifting, things are changing. So if something really does glimmer you, trigger you, whatever, makes you feel things, then feel it. So feel it already. Go into it. Allow your body to know that this is hurting. This is causing a reaction. Because unless you do that, nothing is going to come in for what you actually need. What you actually need isn't going to come in. And what you need is, what we need on a collective level, is the return of soul connections, of soul wisdom, of soul readings, of soul healings, of soul ways of moving forward now, by recognizing there is no quick fix when it comes to soul retrievals. There is no way of bartering the work that needs to be done. There is no way of, we can lighten it up, we can keep it simple, we can call upon support, but ultimately the change comes from the change having to come, and that comes from feeling into what is going on, being present, expanding our awareness. Why? Because the more we do that, we get to see our soul on a far greater level. We get to see what our soul is capable of, and our human self is capable of, beyond the stories. It's not about getting rid of them, but just acknowledging they're a very small part of it. You want to simplify things? Strip it back. You are not your stories. You are not even what you offer. You are not your job. You are not your roles. They're beautiful, beautiful branches of the tree, but the tree itself is being cleansed. The soul itself is being cleared this week, and probably, not probably, own what you say, Kirsty, until the end of April. There is no real clarity as such until this has occurred. So the more time you can allow for this process to occur, the easier transition it's going to be. But don't get too caught up even in that, because things are shifting. We're a 9 into a 10. There is no going back. Enjoy your life. There is no going back. Grasp those moments that bring you sustenance, that help to make you feel alive. Or focus on the things that keep taking you round and round in circles and stripping you away from the life that you're here to live. All is a choice. And that's the other energy that's coming through this week. For me personally, for a lot of individuals, a decision what you're going to continue to feed. A decision what you're going to continue to manifest with. A decision what energies you're going to continue working with and how. A decision not to abuse our own power by deciding how it needs to be based on X, Y, and Z, but really opening ourselves up and letting our soul do what it needs to do through us as a physical vessel. So the cards that I'm going to use are the dragon energy. They are simple in that they don't have lots of pretty pictures and many ways to understand them. If anything, they're by Anne Stokes. If anything, so an example, you have 10 swords here, and it is what it says on the tin. It's a picture of 10 swords. That's it. Yes, they all have different handles. They're all stacked up separate ways and, you know, in different directions. But at the end of the day, it's still the 10 of swords. It's a completion in how we think about things. Sometimes it's by going back to the book, by going back to the drawing board, by going back to the basics, 10, endings, beginnings, sword, mentality. Sometimes by actually, yes, I can see all of these wonderful things. The Pisces new moon is the hanged man, right? I can see all of these wonderful things from a different perspective, but what I feel is what I feel, okay? That can take us through the 10 of swords, this mental regurgitation and repetition. This is what I feel. I'm aware of that story, I'm aware of that, I'm aware of that perception and that way of being and that reality, but this right now is how I feel. That's all that's actually needed. These cards are very simple, but they're simple in the fact that they return us back to what we know. They're the dragon energy, our connection to our body, our connection to the ley lines, our connection to the earth, our connection to the power of the elements within us, and our animal instinct, our Sauka, our force, our life force. So let's give them a shuffle. Let's trust that. My throat is sore. It's like I've stood on top of a hill and it's like all I've said for as long as I can remember. Okay, so trust that. Trust what you communicate. Allow it to change your perspective of how you see yourself. You know, my third eye is really, really buzzing now of how you see yourself, and allow that energy to come in, that wisdom to come in. By all means, spending time by looking at where you're blocking yourself, but not with the not with the plan of continuing to block yourself. Sometimes by looking at what we're blocking, we block what is beyond the blocks. Okay. This morning I realised it wasn't money that I was blocking, or relationships, or worth, or whatever that I was blocking. I was blocking my soul, because damn, it petrified me in the most glorious way. I guess it's like coming face to face with a dragon, right? When we reach our potential, when we open our heart to our true heart's wisdom and our true light, if we've spent our life focusing on all the reasons why we're not that light, like our stories and our pains, that light can be quite blinding, especially if we're trying to understand it. So this week, just allowing it to come back to where it belongs. Just allowing ourselves to feel that. Okay, so at the bottom of the pack we have the 7 of Swords. Again, what I'm being drawn to look at here is 7 swords lined up. However, there are 2 at the bottom that are crossing over, and it's almost forming like a bit of a wall here. So the blindness towards our own potential is what's causing the restrictions, and it's making things more difficult. These swords are lined up as if they're ancestors, having an army behind us, okay? And recognizing that we're not alone here, recognizing that a lot of the energy we're trying to allow to come in on a soul level isn't just our soul, seeing the expansion of the soul itself. We have our soul, but we have our family soul, and we have the soul nomad, yeah? And when we can really expand that view, actually my soul is your soul. And you know, yes, it can feel cliched to those that are unwilling to or unable to perceive that. That doesn't mean, there's many things this week that can feel as if they're quite vast, and people may question their own sanity or really look at things from a different perspective, and that can alter the reality. Not everyone will understand that. That doesn't matter. What matters this week is what works for you, what makes sense to you. So for me, feeling into the vastness of the soul is what helps me to really bring it in any guidance or wisdom that's going on. So what makes sense to you isn't just about what you're aligned to, it's who you are and it's what you're here to do. So the more you can stand in that, not analyze yourself so much, but question anything that questions that this week, the more the endurances that have been gone through will start to become a path of self-mastery that they've always been. The stories are there. What we go through is there. What we've experienced is there, but it's also part of the path towards self-mastery. Don't forget the actions that need to be put in place as a result. Monday, Tuesday. God, the heat coming in through my head is just incredible. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall. Okay, take time this week to put things to one side. To feel into the discomfort. To acknowledge there are some things that we have control over. No, to acknowledge what we believe control to be. Is control our way or the highway? How we expect things to be? Or is control more about working in collaboration with things? Particularly in the spiritual world, if we do not achieve what we believe we want, then we must be out of alignment. Very patriarchal way of seeing manifestation. Alongside, we are entitled to whatever it is we believe we want. Very abusive, aggressive way of creating. Looking at any controls we may have had in place that have consciously disconnected us from our potential. Underneath it all, we have the Eight of Pentacles. And when I look at this card, what I actually see, even though there's many different ways of seeing the Pentacles, many different elements here, many different beautiful physical representations of the one, what I actually see is financial assistance. What I actually see is mastery of worth. And this week, you know, I've noticed by the side of me, I subconsciously have placed some altar items. There's a little container from mine and my husband's wedding, and inside there's a tiger's eye. It held our wedding rings, the union. There's a Buddha, little rub of his belly there. There's also a beautiful piece of citrine, raw citrine, and a couple of quotes. Those who bring sunshine to the lives of others cannot keep it for themselves. It's impossible, said pride. It's risky, said experiences. It's pointless, said reason. Give it a try, whispered the heart. And also a card that comes from one of the figurines I have called the Heart Portal. It feels important here to take time to allow the root chakra to feel uncomfortable and to come back into the place of the heart. Through the portal of an open heart, we enter sacred space where creativity flows. What is calling you? Listen to this silence. The door is always open, even if it's hard to find. These aspects I share with you now because without knowing, what I've done is set up an altar. I thought about money, and it's actually brought forth so much about how I connect my masculine and my feminine, what true abundance is to me, what manifestation and magic is on a deeper level, on a more sacred union, the importance of my own light, the importance of my experiences, but not to let them stand in the way of what I'm trying to now bring forward, and more so, the expansion of the heart that is necessary if we are to recognize our worth. I will continue with the rest of the reading. I'm going to stop for a second. I will continue for the rest of the reading, but if you take nothing else from that this week, allowing your heart to open to recognize the abundance and worth of the coherence of your own soul, giving space for that to express itself in whatever way it needs to, is going to bring in the financial success that many have been looking for, the balance, the mastery, by recognizing our worth and our value. Okay, so I did take a break then, and it feels quite important to take some time out this week, to have a break, to feel into the discomfort. There's a lot clearing with the root chakra. The more we recognize our value and our worth and allow that energy to come through, the quicker that will be. There's a lot there of taking time to breathe, tending to our physical needs, recognizing the importance of ourselves as a vessel of potential. And that doesn't matter if it's your job, a relationship, or timelines. It really doesn't matter. If you don't recognize the value of yourself in that, you're not going to align to it. We have this fear of being left behind, of being abandoned, that is born from all the times we have done so to ourselves. On the Monday, we have the Ace of Swords. I'm not surprised to see that. Again, that is going back to acknowledging who we are as a hollow bone, as a channel. Taking the idea of ourselves higher, opening ourselves up to the vastness of our potential, and bringing that down into all we create as a result. It feels very much linked to communication. I think with the new moon this Friday we have Jupiter in Gemini, so there's a lot there with communication as well. Pausing, feeling into the discomfort, allowing what you need to come through, and then communicating that. It's not that what we want isn't aligned on a soul level. What level of soul is it aligned to? Is it the injured soul, the wounded soul? Is it the stories of the soul? Is it the vastness of the soul? Really feeling into where we are creating, connecting, verbalizing our experiences from. Purely in the energy. So we can say, this happened to me, and we can be really in it, and we can feel that. And that will come across in the energy. And then we can really embody the journey and speak of it from that perspective, and that will come across as well. So looking at the stage of your own path that you are embodying before you communicate things. The Ace of Swords on the Monday, the one thing that I do notice here is that it has lightning bolts in the background, very similar to the Tower card on the Thursday. Whatever is sparked in you on the Monday is going to bring about necessary change by the Thursday. But the Tower card is a major arcana. The Ace of Swords is a minor. Allowing ourselves to feel these sparks, these initiations, is what brings the change. We are communicating with the universe in how we feel, in our vibration. Now, that isn't to say make it something that it isn't. Feel it. Be in that truth. The Tower card isn't all about, oh, these changes are out of our hands and there's nothing we can do. It's changes that were necessary. We're not going to know what's necessary unless we feel into what is uncomfortable and acknowledging our ability to do that. On the Tuesday, that brings us the Five of Cups. It's all emotional on the Tuesday. What is going to change things is holding space for those emotions. On this card, the Five of Cups are stacked up. They're cups. They're just cups. It's just emotions. We're just the vessel for emotions, allowing them to flow through us, holding space for that, taking stock, taking time out with them, feeling into that discomfort but not becoming it, not finding a reason for it. A lot of the times we find a reason for our discomfort is because we can't be with it. It's just emotions. It's just water. Our vessel, our body is just a cup. Allowing that to be is what brings forward more creativity, changes, shifts and potential on the Wednesday as we go from the Five of Cups to the Three of Cups. We get rid of two cups that no longer matter to us. We get rid of two cups, stories that we have united with, emotional well-being that no longer sustains us. That gets put to one side now if we're going to bring forward anything else. Let's face it, we can all be a bit comfortable with our narratives. Particularly if they've been the reason we've done X, Y, and Z. I'm a fighter. I've always been a fighter, and that's helped me get the jobs that I need, but it's not all that I am. Yeah? It's not that these ways of being haven't had a place. Of course they have. Wear them with pride and beauty. But they're not all that you are. Everything that's going on in the world is devastating at the moment, but it isn't the whole world. There are other things going on too. And I'm not saying have one over the other, but it is our responsibility to ensure our life force is at a healthy level. It is our responsibility to look at how we see the world, and we're not going to be able to see that in a balanced way if all we look at is negative. Equally, we're not going to see that in a balanced way if all we look at is positive. Find your middle ground this week. Find what gives you enough discomfort to want to change things, but not to the point where it's abusive to your body as a vessel. Find a way to create, become the safe environment that all births need. The Three of Cups, it is the birth card. What do you need to create now? What makes that place safe for you? On the Thursday, that's where we get our first major arcana, which is the Tower card. There is a force that is coming through all of us collectively that is so intense at times, we will want to control it. We will want, out of fear, out of remembrance for a lot of people, on a cellular level. Yes, that's past life. Yes, that's Atlantis and Lemuria and X, Y, and Z, but this is a remembrance of more than the stories that we have become accustomed to on a cellular level. And it's strong, and we may want to control that. It's strong, we may fear that. It's strong, we may think, whoa, this is amazing, I could change the world with this. It's not about what we can do on the Thursday. Let it be. Let it be. We already felt it on the Monday, and if we feel into that and hold space for that, we would have done what is asked of us. Let it be. Let things shift. Let our emotions flow through us. Find a safe space so that we can hold ourselves for the changes that are coming in. It's big. On the Thursday, it's big. Do I need to go into what that is? On the Thursday, and this week in particular, we can be tempted to really deep dive into what is going on, and that's an individual thing that I won't get involved in. However, my eyes are being drawn to the raven and the crow in front of me. Why are we digging? Why are we picking at things? Why are we opening things up? What is behind that? What is that we need? How are we going to apply that? Does it help us? Does it give us life force? Does it give the situation life force? Or is it burning us out? Is it taking us into mental loops? Is it bringing the energy down to make things more comfortable because that's what we're used to? Sometimes we can really feel like we're doing something to help change the narrative when actually we're doing the opposite. So on the Thursday, being very, very aware of that. On the Friday, we then have the Five of Wands. So we've gone from the Five of Cups to the Five of Wands. Again, there's a turning point here with our own connection to our own spirituality and our own soul. Is there anything that I want to add to that? You can make that as complex as you want, right? We go through our whole life reconnecting to our soul and recognizing the value of our spirit in a physical experience. And there are many different ways that we can do that. There are many different versions of that, but ultimately you can make it as complicated or as simple as you like this week, particularly on the Friday. If you want the turning point, are you going to get that from the same thing? Questionable. Has it worked for you before? Yes, absolutely. Does that mean that you take it forward and it will carry on working for you? Maybe not. This could be a wonderful opportunity on the Friday to look at different ways of doing what we do. Doesn't necessarily mean doing different things, but in different ways. Again, there's that knee-jerk reaction of when we feel that change, that Five of Wands, that Five energy, when we feel that potential, we must do. We felt the whisper of potential. That is doing. Listening to that is doing. So really sensing into where the need to do something is coming from on the Friday. As we move into the Saturday, there's the Five of Pentacles. So we go from this turning point with our own spiritual creative energy into almost a woe is me type energy. But it's that we're being asked to let go of collectively. I really feel quite pained with the word victim mentality because I never want it to come across that I don't believe that the journey is difficult. I do. And what? I also believe that it's not everything that we are. And until we can tap into that higher potential, it's not about letting go of the stories and the hardships, but recognizing they're one aspect of it. Until we can tap into the stories beyond that, the potential beyond that, we aren't going to create anything different. And yes, that takes courage. And yes, that takes raw, open vulnerability to say, here are my scars, but I am more than this also. This is what I've been through, but this is what I'm going to do with that. This is what I've survived. This is how I know my strength, but actually, this is what I now need to do to take it to the next level. Collectively, we are being encouraged to transmute, not release, transmute the poverty consciousness of our own soul. Doesn't matter if you call it money or health or imbalances or injustice. It's a poverty consciousness of our own soul where we haven't recognized the power that we all bring. We haven't recognized our vastness. We have focused too much on the wound and not on the healing. On the Sunday, we have the Devil. There is no getting away from it this week. The Devil card here is a dragon's face and he's looking straight at us. There's no getting away from it. It's there and it's in front of us. We can try and escape it. We can try and make it about other narratives. We can try and X, Y, and Z, but we're going to be continually shown repetitions of the one thing that we are avoiding. Our own power as the light bringers that we are. Really acknowledging this week, acknowledging this week as well. It's going to be a big one. Really acknowledging that this week for the change that it brings. The Tower and the Devil. Looking at where we're holding ourselves back. Looking at where that is not sustainable, not only to us, but to the collective, but to the timelines that we're trying to bring in, but to the X, Y, and Z. We have one sword card. Don't overthink it this week. Connect to what you know. Keep coming back to that. Take time out. Keep coming back to your core essence. There is 1, 2 cup cards, the 5 and the 3 of cups. You can mourn or you can create. The choice is ours. There can be regret or there can be movement forward. The choice is ours emotionally. And that isn't about letting go of what we feel, but feeling it, sifting through it, saying, actually, do you know, my life wasn't for nothing. I didn't go through that for nothing, 100%, but I'm not going to keep taking forward the pain. I'm going to find that energy that was with me all along, that soul essence. Focusing on that emotionally, making space for that, allowing that part of us to come home this week. We then have one wand card. So again, it is about a deeper spiritual, I want to say, communion to our own soul. Recognize our sacredness. Allow that to come home. See the world through that as often as you can. It is like when you go to the gym. You can't lift a weight straight away, but with perseverance and persistence and patience, you keep practicing. You keep making the choice. I'm going to see beyond this. I'm going to go into my heart. I'm going to find that different way that I know exists. Repetition for the beauty of repetition, not the pain of it. We then have two pentacle cards. So lots of balance here. Two cups, two pentacles, one sword and one wand. So those new beginnings are coming with our own emotional wisdom, but our own intellect, what to do with that. And that is what gives us spirituality. It's not about escaping the physical body. It's about coming into the physical body. It's about embodying everything, bringing that energy down into the everyday. Don't forget that what is called mundane, how important that is, how vital that is. I went to the Sea Life Centre this week, and I wasn't going to say anything, but I went to the Sea Life Centre this weekend, and to be with fish, as much as I can, I'm trying to be with animals at different places, but to be with fish, a big no-no for me, a big phobia for me, and I'm aware of other timelines in past lives, so thank you, a big no-no for me, but to be with them and remember their personality and connect to them on an emotional level and to do that healing with them, there wasn't a job, that was common nature, that was what I would do. This week, recognizing what you do, how you may have lost sight of how important it is. My face just wants to beam with that, and allowing that to come back to your heart. We then have, as I say, the 2 cup cards, but we have 2 pentacle cards as well, and it's the 8 of Pentacles or the 5 of Pentacles. Again, it's going back to that decisive energy. Is this mastery, or is it an opportunity to say that we haven't got what we want? Really feeling into that this week. Do we grieve? Do we celebrate? Do we transmute, alchemize and work with, or do we allow it to hold us back? It is all in how we mentally see things, and it is all in what we choose to create with that as a result. So, one card. I'm looking at the full moon here. I wouldn't allow things to start to open us up with this new moon, but don't expect any huge changes until at least the full moon that follows. Give yourself time, recognize the cycles. Yeah, recognize the cycles. Acknowledge divine timing. I was talking to my husband yesterday. He's giving up smoking, he's vaping. Again, each to their own, so thank you for any support or guidance there, but this is his journey. He's vaping, and it needed a lot of things to come into place before he was ready for that. A lot of things. So an example, me not smoking for several years, so that we're not giving up together and going through it together. There's a big emphasis on twin trails and twin healing and twin paths. That doesn't always work, okay? Also not being in the shop all day and being bored, having a different job has helped with that. Not having the money, right, to smoke has helped with that. So recognizing every step that has been put in place is part of the divine timing. Yes, these stories are important because they help bring us back to who we are. They are not more important than who we are. And that's where I really feel that energy in the liver, in the soul. And that's going to bring up a lot of emotions to be processed, a lot of feelings to be brought forward. And just acknowledging them. So I'm rubbing my tummy. You know when you have a tummy ache and you rub your tummy, it's like, oh, my tummy hurts. You're saying to your body, I feel you. Yeah, I hear you. It's all that's actually needed this week. So we have the Strength card at the bottom of the pack, which is an incredible feminine force with the dragon on her shoulders and the sword in front of her. Allowing these changes to be the support that we need, not the weight that keeps us down. It doesn't really feel like there's anything else there, but hey, okay, one card to close it all, because I am analytical, obsessive, acknowledging our flaws and working with them. Analytical, obsessive, and I like closure and completion. Back to the Ace of Swords and the Knight of Cups here. Back to the basics again, recognizing who we are, recognizing what we're feeling, and recognizing what we're asking for from that energy. Okay, so full circle, how we perceive ourselves affects what it is we offer and what we are capable of receiving also. Take care. Sit with the discomfort of it. Do what you need in order to celebrate who you are, not hold yourself back. I shall see you next week.